So today we'll discuss something about your HTML basics. We'll start with that. So now we already know that HTML is a markup language. Okay. So without a markup language, what will happen? If you are not using it for web design, web pages, then the content structures and the text, everything, they will be running together. Like we are able, so whenever there is a web page, we are opening a web page, we can see here some contents are there, maybe some gap is there, and again here some contents, again some gap, again some contents are here. So this is happening because we are using HTML. If we are not using HTML, then what will happen? For a web page, even though in the text editor, if we are writing the contents by giving space and all, but finally what will happen? When we execute it, when we run it, all the contents will be coming together. There will be no space in between them. The way we got the space here, that will not be available here. Okay, so that is why we use the markup language. Now if we are not using markup language, so browser will ignore some things. What those things are? Our browser ignores, first is your multiple character spaces, that is your white space. Okay, second is the line breaks, third is the tabs, and fourth is unrecognized marker. So basically whenever we are not using HTML, we are not using the tags to write the contents which we need to display on the browser, then we should be knowing that the browser always ignores your white space, that means your spaces, like this space whatever we are talking about. Line breaks, so new line going to a next line. Tabs, like here tabs are there, so all these things are ignored. Or any unrecognized markup, if anything we are using which is not defined in HTML, that is also ignored. Okay, so now just let us discuss about the markup basics. So what are the basics? So markup basic means whatever text we are using, that must be marked up meaningfully and accurately with the HTML tags. That means we need to use the HTML tags properly. Okay, so logically and semantically, in both way it should be correct. Why do browsers need that? Why it is required? Why properly thing is required? So that this is required to display the contents correctly. Okay, so the markup makes these contents, whatever we are writing, the content elements available to scripts and style rules. We'll be discussing about script and style rules, that is our CSS and JavaScript. We'll be discussing that. Also what happens, markup aids the search engines. Now how this happens, that also we'll be discussing. So due to this markup languages, it helps in helps for your search engine, for searching anything. Okay, now yesterday we have already discussed about, if I am telling HTML element, we already had discussion about that. Just have a let me have a just a look. We will be writing the element name, write the content here, and then the element name. Okay, these types of things are known as our tags. So there are two types of tags. One is paired, another one is non-paired or unpaired. So in paired, what happens? We have a collection of opening and closing tag. This is my opening tag, this is my closing tag. If both are used, then we tell that is a paired tag. In case of non-paired tag, we just only use the opening tag. My closing tag, this one is not used. This is non-paired, this is paired. Examples of paired are, we have a tag P, we have H1, we have H2, we have many like this. We'll be all using and going through it. This one we have line break, okay, for our horizontal line. So many others are there that also will be going through it. So these are our non-paired tag. Now whenever we are writing a tag, this is a tag. So a tag, I can use some attributes and give it some values, so that in HTML itself I can give some sort of styling. Okay, for example, if I want to display an image, okay, so it may happen that image size is very large. If you open the image in your using any image, if you directly open the image, it may happen that you can see that the image is covering up your total screen. But if I want to use the same image in my web page, I won't like to do the same thing. I would not want that the image should cover up the total screen. So in that case, what I can do is I can mention, so if suppose this is my screen and I'm having an image, when I open the image, this much space is being taken by the image, okay, but same image when I am trying to display in a browser, in my HTML codings and all, I would like that, I will never want that it should take the total page, because I want to display some content also. So in that case, what I would like, I would want that this image should be displayed here, but in a smaller space. So here what I am doing is, what I can do here is I can mention the height, the width of this image, okay, so that it will be taking less area to display itself. So these types of things can be done using an attribute. So what are attributes? So these are instructions. Basically we tell these are instructions that clarify or modify an element. Okay, we'll be discussing it. So where do they appear? They appear in the opening tag. Okay, Where do they appear? They appear after the element name. Okay, so we'll be writing the element name. After that only we'll try mention the attribute. So the general syntax is, I'll be writing the element, then give a space, write the attribute, write its value, then my content, and then my closing tag. Okay, for example, which I told here, if I am taking an image, okay, this is for my image, this is my tag img, so I have to mention the source, where my image is located. So I can mention I'm mentioning a name, suppose xyz.jpg. so this is my image file which I want to display. So this is mentioned in source. Then I'm mentioning another attribute, sorry, this comma is not there, photo of bird, suppose. Okay, so now this is my element, this is my attribute, this also is my attribute, this one is the value for this is the value for this attribute. Similarly, this one is the value for this attribute. Okay, so whenever we are writing an attribute, we write the attribute, then equal to, then within the double quotes we write the attribute values. Okay, so attribute names and values are separated by an equal to sign. There is no such rule that I should be writing src first and then I should be writing alt. So here two attributes I have used and two attributes are separated with a space. I will be writing the first attribute equal to its value within double quotes, then a space, then go for the second attribute, then equal to, then its value within double quotes, and go on if you want more attributes. So there is no particular order that I should be writing, no particular order for writing the attributes. You can write, I can write source here and this alt here also. Okay, we'll be discussing all these things, what this alt means, what this src means, when we will be discussing about the image attribute. Okay, now when this is my value, a value might be a number, word, string of text, a URL, or any measurement. Okay, now this quotation mark which we are writing, they are not strictly required, but we use them, they are recommended for consistency. Single or double quotation marks, whatever we want we can write, they are okay. Attributes, names and the values are defined in the HTML specification. Okay. And many cases are there where some attributes are required. For example, this is image I have used. So source attribute is required. Whenever I am using a image image element, that means an image has to be displayed. So whenever I want to display an image, that image path name, file name along with its path is required. Therefore here for this element, this attribute is required. Alt is not required. But why do we write it? We will be discussing it. Now coming to nesting of elements. Coming to nesting of elements. What is nesting? Nesting means putting elements inside other elements. So nesting is putting elements inside other elements. Okay, this is known as nesting. So here in HTML we need to make sure that closing tags, the note to be noted is closing tags should not overlap. For example, if I am starting a paragraph for which tag P is used, here suppose I am writing a paragraph like now I am ending the paragraph P. So I have started a tag, I have ended the tag. So within this tag, suppose I want that this best word, I want this to make a bold one. So just before it, what I can do is I will be adding another tag. So here space I have not left, so let me write it once again. This is my college. It is I want best to be appearing in bold, so I'm using a tag B which stands for bold, closing the tag, best one. I'm closing the paragraph tag. So here I started a tag, I ended a tag. Within this tag sequence, I have used another tag and ended it. So before closing the main tag, I should be closing the inner tags. Okay. So if I am using here suppose tag 1 and again I am writing here tag 2. So my tag 2 should be closed before tag 1. Okay, this is correct. But if I am writing suppose tag 1 I have written, here I am writing tag 2, then I am writing tag 1 and then I am closing tag 2. So here you can see there is a overlapping. Okay, tag 2 has started and tag 2 has ended here, but in between that again another tag we are closing it, which is not allowed. So this type is wrong. So keep in mind these should not overlap. Okay, now whenever we are writing any code, any program, we write some comment lines. So similarly in HTML also comment is there. So why do we use comment? To leave a note in an HTML document, we usually mark it up as a comment. So comment is written as, here whatever you want to write your text, and okay, so this one is single line. If I want to write this one, if I want to if I am writing suppose 2-3 lines, here I have written something, again I am writing here something, again writing something. So in this case also all these 3 lines won't be getting displayed. Okay, therefore if I am writing anything, suppose I am writing anything here, whatever I write between these two symbols won't be displayed in the browser. Okay, but these will be visible in my source code. That will be visible, but it won't be visible in the browser. So the minimal HTML document structure we have already discussed in our previous classes. So those we won't be discussing it again, we have already discussed that. But in again in many books we'll find another type of minimal structure which is mentioned. Let me write that. We write doc type HTML. Start with HTML, then head, meta charset, this is UTF, then we mention the title, we'll be writing the title here, we close the head tag, then we start the body tag. Okay, here just I'm writing a comment statement. So the page content I'll be mentioning here, whatever I'll be mentioning, I mean not inside this, whatever I'll be mentioning here within this body tag, those things will be displayed. And of course you need to keep in mind, you should not be writing all the tags within this type of tag, because this is my comment tag. So this is the minimal structure for an HTML document. So doc type declaration, it lets the browser know that the document is written according to the HTML5 specification. We have already discussed that. HTML element, it is a root element that contains all the elements in the document. The head element, this one, the head element contains elements that pertain to the document. Okay, so whatever we write here between this head tag, whatever we write here, so they are not rendered as content, such as title, metadata, style sheet, scripts, all those tags are written here only. Now coming to this meta element, they provide document metadata. In this case, here this statement, it says that the document, this document, whatever is written, it uses an expanded character set, that is UTF-8. It could also provide keywords, author information, publishing status and more. Those can also be provided here. Title element is required. Title displays the browser tab and bookmark list, and they are used by the search engines. That is why title is required. Now coming to body tag. So body element, it contains the content of the document. The content is everything, whatever you want to show up in the browser window. So why do we need it? The purpose of HTML is to add meaning and structure to the content. That is known as your semantic markup. So what is semantic markup? To add meaning and structure to the content. Okay, it is not intended to describe how the content should look. That is, it is not intended towards its presentation. The way the elements relate to one another forms an outline like structure called the document object model, document object model. Details we'll be discussing about it. So this document object model is nothing, it's the foundation on which we can apply styles and scripts. So now let's discuss about some basic text elements. So basic text elements, one is P, which is for our paragraph. Then we have H1 to H6 for our headings. Okay, H1 is the biggest heading and the size is the biggest among all these things, and the size then reduces when we go to H6. So whenever we want to give the most main heading, we go for H1. Subheading, we may go for H2 or H3. Accordingly, we do it. Next, let's discuss about block and inline elements. Okay, so block elements, they are the major components of the page that display like rectangular blocks stacking up the page.